ରାକେଶ ସାର୍ଙ୍କ ସହିତ କଥା ହବ।
ରାକେଶ ସାର୍ଙ୍କ ସହିତ
ମୁଁ କହିଲି ଆପଣ ରାକେଶ ସହିତ କଥା ହେବେ ସେ ଶୁଣନ୍ତୁ ତ ନାହାନ୍ତି।
Good morning. Let's start the daily current affairs discussion. The first topic that we are taking today is related to biodiversity conservation about the High Sea Treaty and its impact for India. Okay, it's related to the High Sea Treaty and its okay. The international ocean, the last frontier for uncivilized and uncontrolled human behavior, is on the verge of being tamed. The biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. So, what is the mission? The mission is this one called as the BBNJ. Okay, so what is this BBNJ? Biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction treaty, also known as the High Sea Treaty. This treaty or this BBNJ, otherwise known as the High Sea Treaty, has been accepted in principle by the international community. Okay, what is the treaty? BBNJ, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. But why should we care? Most of the Earth's surface is covered by ocean. Okay, so most of the Earth surface is covered by okay. So biodiversity, okay, beyond national jurisdiction. Biodiversity is not to be confined to any national jurisdiction, but it should go beyond that. Right? Okay. So most of the Earth's surface is covered by ocean, and two-thirds of the ocean are considered high sea area of the ocean outside the jurisdiction of any country. Because country has its territorial water, country has its economic, exclusive economic zone, but beyond that, okay, so that area beyond the territorial water and the exclusive economic zone is the high sea or international water, where no specific country has any particular jurisdiction. It is international. Fine. The high sea are crucial to regulate many environmental processes that make the earth livable for us. The high sea have also seen some of the most illegal behavior, from overfishing to blatant human rights abuse, all while being subject to land-based pollution and climate change. Fine. So this, okay. So the high sea have also seen some of the most illegal behavior, from overfishing to blatant human rights abuses, all while being subject to land-based pollution like plastic, microplastics, and climate change. Having a treaty to regulate all this is much needed, and the new treaty is expected to have the biggest global conservation and regulatory footprint outside atmospheric and climate treaties. So we have treaty on the atmosphere and climate, but on the high sea we don't have any specific treaty except this one, which was just under discussion for signature. And if it is properly signed and implemented, the condition will definitely improve for humanity. The biodiversity beyond national biodiversity treaty would not only have biodiversity impact but also economic one. Take the case of high sea around the continent of Africa. Since many African countries lack the capital and technological powers to have their fishing fleets venture outside the exclusive economic zone, which spread beyond around 200 nautical miles, European fleets have plundered those international oceans. If these European fleets have been bound by the law of their home country, it probably would not make economic sense for them to fish in those waters of the African near the African area, because their own country don't have any specific law. Okay, so that is why those countries, they are able to, the European countries, they are able to venture to, okay, the area near. Okay, take the case of high sea around the country of Africa. Since many African countries lack the capital and technological powers to have their fishing fleets venture outside the exclusive zone, European fleets have plundered those international oceans. If these European fleets have been bound by their law of their own home country, it probably would not make economic sense for them to fish in those waters. India, with its primary near-shore fishing fleets, is in a similar technological position to those African nations, especially with respect to China and European fleets outside our exclusive economic zone, who catch fishes in the high sea beyond the Indian exclusive economic zone, spread beyond 200 nautical miles. Being able to distribute and regulate our national fishing efforts within and outside our exclusive economic zone, alongside regulated international fishing efforts in the high sea, could give India the suitable fishery that would secure our blue economy. Doing so would require several steps, starting with tracking the movement of fishing vessels. Although vessel monitoring system have been installed in many vessels that vessel to the high sea, they are relatively easy to disable, allowing for the illegal movement of vessels as well as illegal operations. Although that vessel tracking system has been installed in many vessels, but it is easy to disable them. So when they want to violate, they disable it. Okay, and that disability. Okay, so currently when international law are broken at E at sea, the consequences vary depending on which country have negotiated treaty with which other individual countries. There may or may not be scope for punitive action. Consider the case of that Chagos archipelago in the Indian Ocean. It is currently claimed to be a British Indian Ocean territory, albeit disputed by Mauritius, and its water have been declared an environment preservation and protection zone. Due to its remote location, fish, fish, fishers have to traverse the high sea to get there. With a small local population expelled decades ago by the UK, the huge as US military base, its local fishing activity is moderate. Okay, very less. So consequently, the Chagos are an attractive rest stop for fishermen, especially from India and Sri Lanka looking to plunder the high sea. Those who want to plunder the high sea from India and Sri Lanka, they took this as a center place. They take rest there, then venture into high sea. Fine. Recent treaty between UK and the Sri Lanka have resulted in greater monetary and penalty for Sri Lankan boats that fishes in those waters, and a resulting decline in Sri Lankan fish vessels in that region. India has no such treaty. As a result, Indian fishermen continue to catch species threatened with extinction, such as the shark, with few consequences. A global scale treaty on the movement of fishing vessels through the high sea would have ramifications on such issue because individual countries would not need to negotiate such things on case by case basis. Fine. The biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction treaty, however, is not a panacea for these issues, although negotiations began in 2013 under the United Nations Convention of the Sea on clause with the aim of regulating fishing gear and reported fishing catch date. The final agreed upon version of the treaty looks quite different. Although the urgency of marine biodiversity loss and marine ecosystem destruction are evident, the negotiations were challenging, including disaster over the scope of the treaty. Okay, okay. So the recent treaty with okay difficult negotiations, the BBNJ treaty, however, is not a panacea for these issues. Although negotiations began in 2013 under the United Nations Convention of the Sea with the aim of regulating fishing gear and reporting fish catch data, the final agreed upon version of the treaty looks quite different. Although the urgency of marine biodiversity loss and marine ecosystem destruction are evident. The negotiations were challenging, including disagreement over the scope of the treaty and the level of protection it should provide. Fine. Some countries raised concern about the potential impact of the treaty on their fishing industries, while others called for stronger measures to protect marine biodiversity. Because some countries say that this is a need and their fishing interest is to be protected if such a treaty is agreed upon. Their own interest in fishing from the sea will be affected, but some other countries say that being biodiversity being a cause of major concern, such a treaty should be signed. By the time it was accepted in principle, the key goals became so to establish a network of marine protected area, to protect genetic resources and to ensure equitable sharing of benefit gained from genetic resources. Okay, these goals are important. Marine protected area are crucial to protect deep sea corals, seamounts, pelagic and highly migratory species. These ecosystems are particularly vulnerable to damage from bottom traveling and other destructive fishing practices. The hope is that these areas should be designed as off limits to fishing and other activity that could harm marine biodiversity. Additionally, sustainable use has been a guiding principle of the treaty with significant ramification for the fishing industry and the promotion of biodiversity conservation. These features have made wildlife conservation organizations love the treaty because this is a broad-based treaty. Okay, and definitely it has its positive impact in protecting the biodiversity of the marine ecosystem. Fine, that the marine ecosystem is very precious, and human has not ventured into the pristine marine ecosystem, but with the development of technology, so we are venturing right now. Okay, so this should be okay regulated from day one. Otherwise, so if it is not regulated now, so it will in future it will cause a big harm to the global ecosystem. Right? That is what is the major provisions of this biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction treaty signed internationally. Okay, which will protect the international water of the sea and from human intervention and related damage to it. Right. Then coming to the drawback of the treaty, how the treaty falls short of addressing some key threats that affect ocean biodiversity, notably fishing and industrial expansion. Right. So another key challenge that the treaty fails to address is to identify a suitable international enforcement agency that could monitor and enforce the regulations laid out by the treaty. Such an enforcement body would also require a financial commitment. Another issue that has not been negotiated or included. Okay, clearly the new High Sea Treaty is just the beginning of a long and tedious process of regulating various aspects of human use in international ocean. Despite these challenges, there is growing momentum behind the treaty. Fine. Okay. Clearly, the new High Sea Treaty is just the beginning of a long and tedious process of regulating various aspects of human use in international ocean. Despite these challenges, there is growing okay momentum behind the treaty. But if it is gaining momentum, so definitely the global community want that a treaty like this is the need of the hour, and it should be it should be signed at the earliest to protect the marine ecosystem. In 2020, a group of more than 170 environmental and human rights organizations issued a statement calling for the treaty to be finalized and adopted as soon as possible. If goodwill were Okay, so if goodwill were currently, this treaty would be considered rich. Its actual impact will depend on how practically and goodwill meet and whether future negotiations will address some of the key shortcomings of this version of the treaty. Okay, so then coming to some timelines of the Law of the Sea Treaty, 1956, the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. United Nations held its first conference on the Law of the Sea UNCLOS at Geneva, Switzerland. Although UNCLOS 1 was considered a success, it left open the important issue of breadth of territorial water. UNCLOS 1 resulted in four treaties concluded in 1958, Convention on Territorial Sea and Contiguous Zone, entry into force on 10 September 1964. Okay. Okay. Then Convention on Continental Shelf entered into force on 10th June 1964. Convention on High Sea entered into force on 30th September 1962. And Convention on Fishing and Conservation of Living Resources of the High Sea that came into force on 20th March 1966. The UNCLOS 1 contained four different treaties related into the High Sea. Convention on that came into, if you go by the order, the Convention on the High Sea that came into force in September 1962, the Convention on Convention on Fishing, Convention on Territorial Sea and Contiguous Zone, Convention on Continental Shelf, and the Convention on Fishing and Conservation of Life Resources that came into force in 1966. Right. 1960 on Clause 2, United Nations held the second conference on the law of the sea on Clause 2. However, the 6 week Geneva conference did not result in any new agreement. Generally speaking, developing nations and third world countries participated only as clients, allies, or dependents of the United States or the Soviet Union with no significant voice of their own. Either they joined the meeting as the representatives of the supporting the US bloc or the Soviet Russia bloc. Okay, without any independent view of their own. UNCLOS 3 1967, the issue of varying claims of territorial water was raised with the UN by Avoid Bardo of the Malta. The 73 to 1982 UNCLOS 3, the third United Nations Conference on the Law of the Sea convened in New York in an attempt to reduce the possibility of group of nation states dominating the negotiations. The conference used a consensus process rather than majority vote. With more than 160 nations participating, the conference lasted until 1982. Fine. On 16 November 1994, UNCLOS 3, the resulting conventions came into force 1 year after the 60th state Vienna ratified the treaty. The convention introduced a number of provisions. The most significant issue covered were setting limits, navigation, archipelagic status, and transit regime, exclusive economic zone, continental self-jurisdictions, deep seabed mining, exploitation regime, protection of the marine environment, scientific research, and settlement of disputes. The convention set the limit of various areas measured from a carefully defined baseline. Okay, and in 1982 to 90 period, the Part 11th and the 1994 agreement, the United States accepted all but Part 11 as customary international law while attempting to establish an alternative regime for exploitation of the marine of the deep seabed. The Preparatory Commission was established to prepare for the eventual coming into force of the convention, recognized claim by applicants, sponsored by signatory of the convention. Overlaps between two groups were resolved, but a decline in the demand for minerals from the seabed made the seabed regime significantly less relevant. Okay, 1990 Part XI and the 1994 agreement, consultations begin between the signatory and the non-signatory, including United States, over the possibility of modifying the convention to allow the industrialized. Okay, so Part XI and the 1994 agreement, the resulting 1994 agreement on implementation was adopted at a binding international convention. It mandated that key articles, including those on limitation on seabed production and mandatory technology transfer, would not be applied. That the United States, if it became a member, would be guaranteed a seat on the Council of International Seabed Authority. And finally, that voting would be done in groups, with each group able to block decisions on substantive matter. The 1994 agreement also established a finance committee that could originate the financial decisions of the authority, to which the largest donors would automatically be members and in which decisions would be made by consensus. Fine. Then the 1st February 2011, Part XI and the 1994 agreement, the Seabed Dispute Chamber of the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea (ITLOS) issued an advisory opinion concerning the legal responsibility and obligations of states parties to the convention with respect to the sponsorship of activity in the area, in accordance with Part 9 of the convention and the 1994 agreement. Biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, the United Nations General Assembly voted to convey an international conference to consider establishing an international legal binding instrument on the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, BPNJ. Fine. The 2018 to 2023 Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, the IGC, okay, convened a total of 6 sessions in 2018, 19, 22, and 23 to negotiate the text for the BBNJ legal instrument. Progress was made in the four main elements: marine genetic resources, benefit sharing using area-based management tools, including marine protected areas, and environmental impact assessment, okay, and capacity building, and the transfer of marine technology. Then August 2022, biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction, the fifth round of talk in August 2022 failed to produce an agreement due in part to significant disagreement over how to share benefits derived from marine genetic resources and digital sequence information. Then 4th March 1923, Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction agreement on a text was reached after the sixth round of talk at the United Nations New York. The European Union placed financial support for the process of ratification and implementation of the treaty. Fine. So all these say that global consensus has been reached or is being arrived at. So by which nations are almost agreeing to plan out a global convention on, okay, So all these can you can say that there is some sort of consensus among the global community to draft a law which will definitely help in drafting an agreement on the high sea to protect the marine biodiversity. The second topic is on an interesting topic of concern also, the CIPRI report on the arms trade. Okay, India remained the world's largest arms importer for the 5-year period between 1918 to 1922, with even though it arms import dropped by 11% between 2013-17 and 2018-22. According to the Swedish think tank Stockholm International Peace Research Institute or CIPRI, Russia was the largest supplier of arms to India from 2013 to 2022, but its share of the global total import fell from 64% to 45%, while France is the second largest supplier, so top supplier is Russia, followed by France. As per the latest CIPRI data, among the top 10 arms exporter for the period 2018-2022, India was the biggest arm export market to three countries. Okay, so Russia, France, and Israel, they exported arms and ammunition to India. The largest export market to South Korea. Okay, so we exported maximum to South Korea. India had also the largest market for the South Africa, which was ranked 21st in the list of arm exports. Okay, we also export to South Africa and South Korea. For the same period, India remained the largest arm importer, followed by Saudi Arabia. Russia accounted for 45% of India's imported, followed by France and USA 11%. So 45% from Russia, 29% from France, and 11% from USA. Also, India was the third largest arms supplier to Myanmar after Russia and China, accounting for 13% of its imports. India's tension with Pakistan and China largely drives its demand for arms import. So it is Indian conflict with both China and Pakistan that compelled India to go for importing huge arm when there is a need for development of so many other things. So by means forgetting these things, so India is going to import arms. So importing arms at a cost to launching development. So is a compulsion on India because so due to the security threat perception by it from two hostile neighbors like China and Pakistan, at times India was compelled to go for huge arms import. Okay, so with 11, okay, it retained this position even though its arm import dropped by 11% between 2013-17 and 2018 and 22. The decade can be attributed to several factors, including India's slow and complex arms procurement process, effort to diversify its arms supply, and attempt to replace import with major arms that are designed and produced domestically. Stockholm International Peace Institute is an independent international institute dedicated to research into conflict, armaments, arms. Fine. So that is why. So its report is accepted very well. Okay, around the global community, and what it say is accepted without any doubt. Fine. That is why. So when CIPRI give the report, when so it is accepted by everyone. Fine. Then the next is exercise La Porushu 2023, the third edition of the multilateral exercise La Porushu is scheduled to be conducted in Indian Ocean region from 13 to 14 March 2023. This edition will witness participation of the personnel, ship and internal helicopters, integral helicopters of the Royal Australian Navy, French Navy, Indian Navy, Japanese Maritime and Defense Force, Royal Navy, and the United States Navy. So such huge, such strong countries' naval forces will participate. Indigenously built guided missile frigate INS Rahati and a fleet tanker INS Jyoti will be participating in this edition of the exercise. The biennial exercise La Poriouche is conducted by the French Navy and is aimed at enhancing maritime domain awareness and optimizing maritime coordination among the participating navies in the Indo-Pacific region. The two-day exercise provides an opportunity for like-minded navies to develop closer link in planning, coordination, and information sharing for seamless maritime operations. The exercise will witness complex and advanced naval operations, including surface warfare, anti-air warfare, air defense exercise, cross-check landing, and tactical maneuvers. Participation of Indian Navy in the exercise showcased the high level of synergy, coordination, and interoperability between the friendly navies and their commitment to rule-based international order in the Indo-Pacific region. Fine. That is what is the major issue in discussion. Fine. Then the next topic that we take is the water heritage sites. What is it? Water heritage site. Okay. So what is this? What is this and why it is so important? Okay. Water heritage sites. Why it is so important? Okay. Okay. The Ministry of Jal Shakti had constituted a committee to identify 75 water heritage structures in reference to 75 years of Indian independence. So 75 years of Indian independence led the government to identify 75. Okay, so water heritage structures in the country. Fine. There is no provision under the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Site and Remains Act 1958. Okay, to declare a site as a water heritage site under ASI Act or Archaeological Survey Act. Okay, it is in this connection the Jal Itihas portal showcasing the 75 water heritage sites was launched. At present, okay, so at present there is no central fund allocated dispersed for maintaining these sites. What are water heritage sites? Water heritage usually involves with water environment that often faces inevitable changes due to demand of the large generation. Water heritage found in spaces that are closely linked to tradition, rituals, and narratives. Ancient monument, archaeological sites, and remains act 1958 is the okay. So remains act is the major guiding principles. So the ancient monument and archaeological sites and remains act AMSAR. Okay, AMSAR Act provides for the preservation of ancient and historical monuments and archaeological sites and remains of the national importance for the regulations of archaeological excavation and for the protection of sculptures, carving, and other like objects. The Archaeological Survey of India functions under the provisions of this Act. Provisions: the AMSAR Act of 1958 prohibits construction in a prohibited area of 100 meters around protected monuments. It does not permit construction in such prohibited area even for public purpose except under certain conditions. The central government can extend the prohibited area beyond 100 meters. Okay, amendments. The Amritsar bill was passed by the Lok Sabha in 2017. It allowed the government to take up infrastructure projects within prohibited areas around protected monuments. It introduced a definition for public works, which includes construction of any infrastructure that is financed and carried out by central government for public purposes. It allowed the center to allow public work based on the recommendation of the National Monument Authority. So that is what some water body will be taken into preservation mode and they will be protected from. Okay, that is what it is a nice step because the next we are fighting for the water bodies around the world, and if we can save the water body in our own country, it will be much better. Okay, and much beneficial to the future generation that will come to earth. Fine. Then the question: virtual digital asset have potential for criminal misuse considering the speed and anonymity with which they can be traded worldwide. In this context, discuss the threat posed by digital asset and regulatory and other responses needed to deal with it. Okay. The Finance Act of 2022 defines virtual digital asset as information, code number, or token number being. Okay. So, the Finance Act of 2022 defines virtual digital asset as information, code, number of token, or number being Indian or foreign currency, generated by cryptographic means or otherwise. It is a digital representation of value that is exchanged with or without consideration. This definition includes cryptocurrencies and can also include a wide range of digital assets as decided by the government from time to time. The government has also decided to bring virtual digital asset under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act in order to widen the taxation and regulatory net of these assets. Threat possessed by these virtual digital assets used for criminal activities. Virtual assets are used for a wide range of illicit and criminal purposes by a diverse group of malicious actors. The three most prominent illicit users are money laundering, trade in illicit goods and services, terrorism financing. No, non-face-to-face activity, virtual asset related activity are conducted online and are not in the same physical location. This complicates the identification of the customer and increases the risk of false or inaccurate identification information being provided. Threat posed by the decentralized nature of virtual asset. The virtual asset service providers can have a physical presence in one jurisdiction, be registered in another, place their server in yet another, and provide service globally without the need of a central command. This complicates the prevention of illegal transactions. Then potential for greater autonomy. In many cases, example Bitcoin, transactions are visible online and traceable from one wallet to another, but linking a particular address or wallet to a specific individual is challenging. This challenge is further compounded by the availability of mechanism designed especially to hinder the traceability of fraud. Used in cybercrimes, virtual digital assets also pose greater cybersecurity risk. For example, in 2017, the WannaCry ransomware attack had thousands of computer system hostage until the victims paid hackers a ransom in Bitcoin. That means, so although the ransom demanded Bitcoin and was paid in Bitcoin, but the information community are unable to track who is the person who is taking this. Okay, so on demand. Okay, that is, but if that is not being done when the entire community is affected. Okay, so okay, so that means when the WannaCry demanded and collected ransom in Bitcoin, and it was globally a big menace, but no one is able to trace who are the person who have received this amount. Response required to deal with the threat posed by the virtual digital assets. Regulatory response in the face of growing technological innovation in the financial sector. It is critical to strengthen the supporting regulatory framework that operate regardless of the nature of instrument. International cooperation. The technology behind the blockchain and virtual asset is complex and make it difficult to determine their governing structure. A globally coordinated response can help in governing and regulating the virtual digital asset. The G20 provides a suitable platform for developing consensus around the around regulation of the virtual digital assets. Implementing Financial Action Task Force (FATF) guidelines for a risk-based approach to virtual asset and virtual asset service providers. It includes focusing on the following areas: classification of the definition of virtual asset and the VASP, guidance on the risk and the tools available to continue to countries to address the money laundering and terrorist financing, risk for peer-to-peer transactions. Okay, developing financial literacy program in order to make people aware of potential risk attached to the virtual digital assets. Developing adequate financial literacy program should be considered. Continuous monitoring. The virtual space should be continuously monitored by national and international agency in order to keep up with the evolving technology. The virtual digital asset ecosystem has been growing rapidly in the last few years. While the technology associated with the virtual digital asset have greater significance, they also pose threat to misuse. Therefore, a multi-stakeholder approach that involves the relevant national authorities, private sector, civil society, and academia is key at all stages, from accessing risk to assessing risk and threat to developing response measures to conducting review and assessment of the impact of the virtual digital aspect, which is growing and which may pose big threat in future. Fine. Then coming to the MCQs of the day, the first one, the reference to United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Consider the following. Fine. A coastal state has the right to establish the breadth of its territorial sea up to a limit not exceeding 12 nautical miles, measured from the baseline determined in accordance with the convention. Right? Ship of all states, whether coastal or landlocked, enjoy the right of innocent passage through the territorial water. That's the right. The exclusive economic zone shall not extend beyond 200 nautical miles from the baseline from which the breadth of the national territory, a territorial sea is measured. So the three are correct. So 1, 2, 3. Answer is D. Consider the following statement: India remained the largest arms importer in the last 5 years. Russia are the largest supplier of arms to India in the last year. So both are correct. Okay. Reference to exercise law for use 23. Consider the following. The exercise law for use is conducted by French Navy annually. No, it is not annually, biannually. So INS Sahyadri and the fleet tanker INS Jyoti will participate from India. Two is correct, one is incorrect. So which is not correct? So which is not correct? So one is not correct. So answer will be one. That means A will be the answer, because it is not annually, it is biannually. So consider the following statement. There is no provision under the Ancient Monument and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958 to declare a site as a water heritage site under the Archaeological Survey of India. The Ancient Monument and Archaeological Site and Remains Act 1958 provides for substantive process for identifying a monument as a monument of national importance. Okay. So question number 4, both are correct. Fine. Then Mount Merapi. Mount Merapi is in Indonesia, which has exploded, means there is volcanic eruption recently. Okay. Then Bobilibina is a large block string instrument used in Odisha music. It is incorrect. It has a GI tag for its unique design and high quality craftsmanship. Two is correct. So only B is the right answer. Justice Verma Committee recently seen in news related to Verma Committee related to welfare of animals. Okay, that means option is B. Then Melanolich tijuga is a species of often mentioned news to the following. It is a species of turtle. Then Namaste is a joint minister of the Minister of Social Empowerment and the Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs. Namaste is aims to achieve zero fatality in the sanitation works in India. So in this question number 9, so it is both are correct. Then question number 10, fluorescence microscopy studies how objects remit light. So it is correct. And fluorescence are objects studied under the fluorescence microscope. This is incorrect. So 2 is incorrect. So answer is B for this. So this way your today's discussion is over. So keep on watching regularly. So on the developments to update yourself on the major issues and the major development going on around you. Fine. Thank you for watching.